to the Fencing Success Podcast, a show where fence and deck contractors are looking to grow their company and take it to the next level. Hey, I'm your host, Marko, Sipila, co-founder at FencingLaunch. In each episode, we will be interviewing successful business owners, vendors, and a whole lot more. We'll see you on the podcast. Everyone, your host, Marko Sipila here, co-founder at FencingLaunch. I'm joining you today with an amazing individual in the fencing industry. He's not only a driving force behind the Fence Show, but he's also a key event in the fencing industry, which we'll be talking a lot about that. But he's also the owner of Las Vegas Fence. So welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Wow, thanks, Marko. I couldn't ask for a better introduction if I wrote that. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. And heard a lot of good things about you as well, and you guys and what you're doing there. I know not just what we're doing, but the concrete world and stuff. So I'm excited to see what you guys can bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Super honored to speak with you here. And I want to go over kind of your background. I want to go over sort of the Fence Show as well, since the Fence Show is coming up here next month. But just real quick, I guess, just to get started, I guess what prompted you to get in the fencing industry? It sounds like you've ran Las Vegas Fence for 20 years or so. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in Las Vegas for a long time. So I started off, like everybody else, as a Chippendales dancer. And no, I can't back that up. That's not true. But my family ran and owned a lot of fence companies. So like a lot of the trades and, people you've worked with, we grow up in it. Once you learn a trade, it turns into something you can count on for life. So I always encourage people that, while you're going to school and everything, try to learn a trade or something as a backup. So for me, it ended up being something I just stuck with my whole life. And my uncles owned fence companies in Oregon, Idaho, Alaska, and I ended up landing in Las Vegas. That's where I am.
Yeah. So it's definitely not your first rodeo then.
Yeah. I mean, put a lot of nuts and bolts together, fence bolts, that's for sure.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, did you start Las Vegas Fence then out there, or is this a second generation type of thing?
Yeah, no, I started Budget Fence Company, which ended up morphing into Las Vegas Fence, and it's just been growing, and then we were doing a lot more stuff around the state and going into other states in Washington and Oregon. And then since we became just kind of ingrained into the Las Vegas area, Clark County, we kind of rebranded, many, many, many years ago as Las Vegas Fence. Okay, good. Yeah. And your journey, because I mean that was 20 years ago. I was listening to another show you were on. You guys had rebranded and things like that. But what's I guess you guys sell material, but you also do installation. Is that right? Yep. Yeah. Material sales is probably 40%. It's always been probably at least 40% of our business. So we ship a lot of material out to other states and things like that as well. So it's definitely, we encourage people when we're talking to them to get that revenue stream up a little bit coming from the material sales, because a lot of times you can get that to cover some of your overhead for the building, the property, and then it kind of takes some of the pressure off the installation, to where if you are having a slow time during installation, or you're waiting on some funds to come in, that you're waiting on a larger project for money, it helps fund some stuff. So material is definitely a big part of what we do.
Yeah, good. And are you guys shipping across the country to different fence companies that are installers or contractors? It's kind of that B2B model.
Yep. Anything that goes out of state is typically to a contractor, another fence company. And even out of the country, it's always to a contractor of some sort. So most of our material sales is to fence companies and gate companies, contractors and things like that. Okay,
good. And then, I mean, fast forward to today, I mean, you guys are putting on your second annual event with the Fence Show, which is pretty awesome to see. And you guys obviously have a big wave. I mean, a lot of people are, submitting to this, and a lot of people are coming to it. So how was the first year of the Fence Show you guys did last year?
That was nerve-wracking. I mean, it was one of those things I put together. It was like a thought in my head that, we already started the association. Then I realized, while we had the traction, now's the time to launch the Fence Show and keep it, keep the ball rolling, and the Fence University and stuff. So the Fence Show, it was one of those crazy ideas. I have a lot of ideas, but that some of them don't make it and some do. But I was out looking for expo halls. Everybody in my office thought I was nuts. Next thing you know, I'm signing a contract saying, hey, and it started off with just 2 of the 4 halls, at South Point. And it wasn't but 2-3 months into it, we had to expand to take over the whole expo hall, which was kind of cool. And that was in the first show. So it was a big success. The first show, we learned a lot. And the second one, it was a little easier to fill the booths up. We're already probably 40% more booths than we had last year. And, there's still 30 days left. So and we had to expand add another 10 booths, I think, recently on. So we're expecting 175 exhibitors. And last year we had 120. So it's exciting. It's going to keep, it's going to keep growing. The industry was ready. It was just ready for something that was built for the contractors and, like people you work with every day. It felt like the shows in the industry, everything kind of was catering more towards the, which is important, but the manufacturers, connecting manufacturers with distributors. Well, we want to connect the manufacturers, distributors, and bring in the contractors this time because, reality is those are the bears, those guys, those are the bears in the woods, the contractors. Those are the ones that are spending them, buying the materials, buying the trucks, hiring the people. That's where the money's coming from, is those guys, 1 truck or 20 trucks. That's where all of our money's coming from, whether you're a distributor or manufacturer. Without those contractors, we got nothing. So we have to start taking care of them and building resources for them. So that's where everything kind of came from with that mindset.
Yeah. And then did you ever think as like an installer yourself, like, why isn't there a show or why isn't there a resource or community for companies like myself? Is that kind of that thought process you had?
Yeah. I mean, we always felt there was shows you could go to, but as a smaller, as an installer, you didn't really feel like it was for you at all, as the actual employees of the companies. But as a fence company, you didn't feel connected to it. It's just, I mean, that's all there was to it. In general, the smaller companies, you just felt like you'd go just because it was kind of cool to see all the products, but they really didn't want to talk to you as much. It didn't feel like so. And maybe they did. It's just maybe the environment itself wasn't conducive to opening up the dialogue, with everybody. So we kind of created something that everybody felt comfortable, and and all the exhibitors at the end of their carpet, and shaking hands and meeting every single person. And I think even at our show there was like 7,000, besides just the attendees, that were walking around, there were 7,000 virtual handshakes, we call them. That means not just exhibitors scanning badges, but attendees scanning each other's badges. And being that we do it at a property that fencers would be more comfortable at as well, because it's just a smaller venue where people can get together. It's not a huge, for these ones right here, it wasn't a huge expo hall where it was going to cost you an arm and a leg, every time you wanted to do something, $50 drinks and $50 Uber rides, you're on site. So we tried to build something that would encourage the networking. So it's more of a, it is a show, but we kind of created a networking event at the same time.
Yeah. It's a community of fencing businesses looking to help each other out and grow together. Right.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. I mean, just to see the first year you guys just kind of kicked it off there, I guess, like how many contractors, so you said 125 exhibits, how many contractors showed up?
Way over 2,000. So, I mean, well, attendees, I mean, as contractors themselves, we didn't actually, the first year, people ask these numbers a lot. I mean, if you were there, you could tell it was a success. A lot. Some of the exhibitors that were there, most of them we talked to said they sold more at this show than they ever sold at a fence show. And so, some of them said, hey, we sold, one guy said he did 25% of his annual sales at our show in those 2-3 days. Another one said they sold every bit of product they had on the floor, pieces of machinery and stuff, and said they'd never done that. So that right there kind of, says what a success it was. But being that it was our first show, man, we were like switching softwares at the last minute. We were going back and forth, and I tell everybody, man, we just were not as organized in tracking the analytics that we should have been tracking, but we didn't have the resources and the staff like some of the shows that have been around a while, where they've got it all kind of dialed in. So I think this year we've got a lot more of that in place, because we learned from the exhibitors, and we learned from everybody, and even the sponsors and people that want to advertise at the show. We learned the information they want and they need in order to make a decision whether they want to participate. So this year we plan on tracking a lot more. So it won't just be the optics of a successful show. We'll be able to have the analytics to show that it was a successful show. Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, I mean, because every contractor might have, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people come, as far as attendees per company. And that's what I really like about it. It's like, these companies, they'll send their employees there, they'll send their team there, and they can, we'll get into it, whether you guys have breakout sessions and stuff like that, but like there's a lot of
growth that can happen,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. I guess if you were to give us like one or two things, like what drove this thing to drive over 2,000 people in the first year? Like, it's obviously there's a ton of value, which people see value, but how do you guys get so many people there?
Well, I mean, we have a large connection with, the fence contractors themselves. And some of these contractors being that it was such a friendly show for the actual contractors themselves, we have some, even this time, we've got someone that just registered 24 of their employees. So they're not just coming, they're bringing more people with them to the show, which is amazing when you hear that, because they're doing this as a incentive for their employees. And we've got one guy that made them pass a bunch of tests or something in order to qualify to come to the fence show, because for the first time ever, even right down to the guys that are in the weld shop, everybody is excited to come to Las Vegas and go to one of these shows. So and then and I tell people all the time, don't underestimate that guy that works for a fence guy right now, because he, every one of these guys, their dreams, a lot of them is to start their own fence company. So you may shake the hand of Billy Bob Joe Don Baker from XYZ Fence, and he may be an installer at one of these companies this year, but he could already be working on getting his contractor's license. And next year, he could have 1-2 trucks. And the year after that, he could have 3 or 4 trucks. Next thing you know, he's one of the big players in that town. So by having them bring all of these people to the fence show, I think it opens up a lot of doors for all of those guys as well to, just make relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a big deal. And like, you've been in this industry, you've been doing this for a while. What are just a couple of things like you wanted to implement at the show? Obviously, it's community driven, right?
Right.
There's going to be it's at South Point. Everybody's kind of at this location. They're able to network and all of that. Do you guys have breakout sessions? Like help the audience understand exactly what's going to be there?
Yeah. Well, there's I'm glad you asked. We did it a little differently because we realized everybody can't spend 5, 6 days, 7 days. Sometimes now when you're catering to and building something for the fence companies and the fence company owners, they don't have staff that's dedicated to go to these trade shows. They don't have staff that says, hey, we're on the road, 8 weeks out of the year doing these shows and stuff. This is them. This is the guys are out there in the field working all the time. So it's a big deal for them to shut their companies down and come to a show and take 3 days off, because a lot of them are shutting their companies down. That means no revenue for the company, no nothing, no sales. And that's a big deal on top of the expenses. So we tried to cater it to where, hey, if you are there and there is a couple sessions you want to pick up, these are also going on during the show, and break away for 45 minutes and go and take some of these classes. There's over 70 different sessions on different things. So if you're looking for sales and marketing, if you're looking to learn about vinyl, if you're looking to learn about some equipment, or it's just different for everybody. Maybe it's marketing for your websites and domains, and there's going to be some guys talking about that. So there's a lot of sessions, and that's all going to be in through the app. And we got a mobile app, like I said, where you're going to be able to scan, instead of just the old way it used to be was just the exhibitors would be scanning attendees badges and gathering that information, as you walked into a booth. Well, now you can scan each other's badges. And like what I was trying to get at earlier, we had over 7,000 virtual handshakes that went on between the actual attendees to attendees and exhibitors to exhibitors. That means if you're down at the lounge and you don't have a business card, you can scan someone else's badge and gather that contact information. So the education sessions, there's going to be just tons and tons. There's so many that it's even hard to list. We just had a meeting this morning that we're trying to get all that uploaded into the mobile app so that you'll be able to scroll through and set reminders to make sure you make it to those.
Yeah. So there's going to be different breakout sessions across really everything it takes to grow a fence company.
Yep. And then we have if you're looking for more of an intense dive into it, Overdrive from Sean King from Mr. Fence Academy will be going on Monday, Tuesday. So, if you do happen to come in and you want to take advantage of that before the expo hall opens, the Overdrive event is going to be going on as well. And that's kind of a 2-day event where you're sitting in there. I think it's 7-8 hours a day for 2 days before the show, which is kind of nice. And then some competitions outside that's going on Tuesday, where this time we've got space outside where they're going to be demoing equipment. There's just going to be a lot of stuff going on. And we try to make it a kind of like a festival feeling in a way where, you're coming, it's more entertaining. And because not, you know, sometimes you bring your spouses or your significant others, and they're not in our industry, so you got to be, and it gets boring, man. You go to some shows, and you've been to them. You go to, especially in doing what you guys do. You go to expos, and sometimes you go in and you feel like, man, if there was a chair somewhere, I could just go down. It's just like no, right? It's just dull. You've seen it, right? Your feet hurt, and it's dull. So we tried to make it.
You're walking around. Yeah.
Right? And and I'm like, if you didn't get a picture with Elvis or something at my show, then we failed you. If you didn't get a hat or a shirt or something, you got to include. If you want the people to engage in what we're doing that are in our industry, you got to make sure that you include, who they're bringing with them, and make it to where it's not just boring for them. And that's kind of what we tried to create.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and I saw that you guys are doing the Fence Wars, and the Fence Wars, which is I think it's on the 10th. You guys will be doing that, but the Fence Games. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that? Like, I think that's a new addition from last year, right?
Yeah. That was one of my crazy ideas that I just announced and told everybody we're doing it, because I know if I would have brought it up, they just all would have said, no, we don't want you. So I just announced it, went public with it, and said, guess what, guys, we're doing it. I signed on for the extra space on the property out there, and let's build it. If you build it, people will come, and it's an experiment as well. It's an experiment. And if the industry loves it, we'll expand it more, but if you don't try, you never know. Maybe the outside area is just such a hit. And I think it will be, based off of the feedback. People are excited to be able to go out and make some noise. And we're in the fence industry. We're in construction. I mean, like World of Concrete and all those other ones.
Yeah.
That outside area is a pretty big deal, right? It's a lot of stuff you can't do. You can't do inside. So while we don't have unlimited funds to, do everything I'd like to do outside, the helicopter rides and the racetrack and all that stuff, we can't do everything I want to do outside. We're going to try to introduce it to the industry and get feedback and see if, people really like it. If they do, we're going to grow it, and there'll be some competitions out there. I think there's $10,000-$12,000 worth of competition money up at stakes out there, and where you can, who can build 60 feet of aluminum fence the quickest, or who can put 100 nuts and bolts in the bot. And we did some simple competitions too, to where even if you're not in the fence industry, you can get a chance to win some money and stuff like that too. And then a little happy hour, we got a beer garden, a fence maze set up with temporary panels. So it should be kind of fun. It's gonna be interesting to see, and what we can do out there. We'll have some canopies to get out of the sun. Get a drink, sit down. Homeland Vinyl's donating some benches that'll be out there, and then a lot of action happening out there. Fence Games will be doing some stuff out there from Sean King's from the Mr. Fence Academy. So it's going to be fun, and we got Billy Grove. We've got a bunch of people doing a lot of volunteers and a lot of excitement, from stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it's actually something they've done at the World of Concrete and the concrete industries, the Epoxy Wars. So like the Epoxy Wars is where you would basically, whoever you have a certain amount of time to do a certain epoxy design, and then people rate it.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. Just adding more, you're gamifying it, and through that you're able to teach more, and you're able to make more impact through that, and that's really good. Just coming up here, I mean, so this is literally, 1 month out now, right? And we're coming up pretty close. I didn't realize time's just flying. It's already August. But what are you most excited, and what are you most looking forward to this year in the Fence Show?
I think it was a pretty well ran show last year. So I think what I'm looking forward to this year is I was in panic mode, man. I mean, it was just, at first I was nervous about how am I going to get exhibitors to sign up for this thing? If I don't get enough exhibitors, then it's going to be a flop entirely. And I'm already committed to the space, committed to the food and beverage minimums. And just a lot of money on the line for it just to pull a show off. Right. So, and then I was nervous, right up until the day of when that opening ceremony outside. I was just in knots, didn't sleep, And but now, okay, we got exhibitors here, but if I don't get anybody to the show, it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be a flop, and everybody's going to be upset that they came and spent all this money to set up their booths, right? So, and then during the show, I'm like, how's everything going to go? How's the entertainment? Does everybody know about the education? And it's going on the whole time. So I think that what I'm looking forward to this time is being able to relax a little bit. And while it's still going to be hectic, it's still going to be hectic, and a lot of shaking hands and walking around. I think I'm going to be able to breathe a little bit more, walking the floor, and enjoy
I mean, I enjoy seeing people. I mean, I had people say, "Hey, man, it was good to meet you," and it was a blur. I don't, I'm like, yeah, and they're like, yeah, remember we talked about this, and I'm like, man, I think I had hours at a time where I just blacked out and I just walked around like a robot or something, and I don't remember some of it. So it was so it was so intense that first show. So I guess what I'm looking forward to the most is being able to relax and enjoy the show with everybody else.
Yeah, no, I love that, and we've put on an event before, obviously not to this caliber, and just a couple hundred people, and just putting on an event in general is just not an easy feat, like the stuff that Susan is doing, the stuff that your team is doing. If it wasn't for them, like it's super important to have the right people in the right seat putting on these events. And I saw, because obviously we're going to be an exhibit, we're going to be, we'll have a booth there. And when I saw your guys's, like the app where you have the, the online information there, I just think the structure that you have going on is pretty amazing, like compared to some of these other events that I've gone to, just things is just kind of hectic, like you don't know where to find information, it's just confusing the way you lay it out. So I like what you guys have been able to do, especially on the exhibit side too. From a consumer standpoint, but also exhibitors, like you're just kind of putting it out here. Here's what it is. Here's the value. Here's our vision. Here's our goal, and it's super clear. I really like it.
Yeah, and it's a big deal. And I think we forgot in our industry. I think our industry on the shows and stuff, I think people started doing them because they had to. We forgot why we did them in the first place. And that happens in any industry. I mean, it grows to a point where you're just doing it. You're doing them because you have to. And you're like, well, if I'm not there, then everybody will think I'm going out of business. Well, that's not what these shows were meant for. These shows were meant to network. And if you can't get a return on them, you shouldn't do them. Right. And it's up to us at our end to make sure that we set up a good enough experience to bring the attendees, and the attendees get something out of it. The exhibitors get something out of it. And it's a team effort. And the app was a big deal because we're trying to bring our industry up. And my idea of validating our industry and making it more of a professional trade is different than some. I go the route where I think that we do it by creating some resources and getting, getting health insurance, getting stuff in there, and creating creating the connection between the suppliers and the small fence companies and building them up. I believe that's the way to do it, for me. And then that's why the app was a big deal, to get that connectivity and get the people networking. So I was kind of excited about that. You're going to see that at all the shows now. In fact, I think our app is being used at some of the other trade shows, the fence shows and stuff. I think the Reno one's doing the same exact platform, and that's good, because the whole reason we're doing all this is so if you like something we're doing, implement it at all the other shows. It just helps the industry as a whole to get more people involved in the trade shows.
Yeah, you said the West Coast Fence Show.
Yeah,
they're using the same app.
Same exact app this year. And I told, when I was talking to the company that we did the app through, I said, man, once I get you into the industry, everybody's watching what we're doing on the other shows and stuff, because there's so much energy behind what we're doing. I said, you guys will now be ingrained into the fence industry. And then the very next year, they're signing up other fence company trade shows. So that's good, though, because once we find what works amongst all of us, we should all be copying each other to make all the shows better and pushing each other to make better shows.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super big, man. And it's the industry thing, so this isn't competition. Like we want to help the owner operators, the smaller fence companies connect with the right suppliers, shop with the right vendors, because let's be honest, they can't do everything. Like you're going to spread yourself too thin and you're going to be spinning your head. And so you got to be with the right contacts. You got to be with the right vendors. And that's how you're going to grow, And it's just a season of business. Every season's a little different. And I want to touch on that a little bit. Out of the people coming to this event, the fence show, it's for everyone, right? Like whether you're smaller, whether you're bigger, is what would you say there's more about? Would you say there's more smaller businesses coming, or how does that look?
Well, for attendees, you mean? Well, I mean, I think for our association, the FWA is the largest, it is the largest member-based association. So while, we may not have as many you want to sell chapters and things like that around the country. As you know, as some, we definitely have more members, actual members of the association. And the key factor that for us is we are over 80% fence contractors, which means, you know, our events have to cater more towards, you know, the stuff that would benefit the contractors and the actual fence companies and things a little bit more, fence and gate companies. So it's a lot harder to, one thing we've learned, it's a lot harder to get the actual fence and gate contractors, you know, the 1 to 10 trucks to engage and do stuff and get them than it is to get manufacturers and suppliers. So we love the manufacturer suppliers. They're the reasons these shows can exist at all. But like I said, they are set up to go to these shows and stuff. So it's a little easier to get manufacturers and suppliers to go places and go to events and trade shows and networking events than it is to get the actual fence guys to show up.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Selling sponsors is usually a little easier than selling tickets.
Yeah. So one thing we really focused on, we realized if you build something and you get the people there, everybody else wants to be there too. So that's been our model, is to keep pushing to bring more and more fence and gate companies into the network and get them involved. There's like, you know, I think it was last time someone told me on the actual fence people in our industry is like hundreds of thousands, like 50, 60,000 fence companies and hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And we're only touching a fraction of it. If you add all of us associations together, I mean, the guts we would have to even pretend we represent the industry. We don't. We represent 1 to 3% of the industry. That's not even enough to go out and say, this is what we think the industry needs, hardly. So we need to get, before we even start talking about that, we should probably work on getting more people involved in our industry.
Yeah.
Reality is we're, you know, add us all together.
Grand scheme of things, it's kind of,
add us all together, add all of us fence associations together, you know, FWA, AFA, NAFCA, all the other ones together, and we don't even equal probably 2-3% of the industry. So it's humbling when you look at it that way too. You know, and we need to really focus on getting more people into our networks.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, so you know, you have the Fence Workers Association, from my understanding, right?
Yep.
And then you have the Fence Show, which is the show of this organization. What else are you guys very much involved in? Like, where else can these contractors kind of tune in, subscribe to an email list, or and learn more about what you guys have?
Yeah, well, obviously you can go to you can go to joinfwa.com if you want to join, but and I'll have a lot of information as well. So it's just joinfwa.com, and then Fence Magazine is something we created, and it was created to promote, because, you know, while we are pushing to get attendees there, we realized we needed some way to promote and push for our exhibitors and the manufacturers and the suppliers, and that's kind of where the Fence Magazine came, and that's grown quite a bit in the last year or two. So fencemagazine.com, if you want to, you know, kind of follow that, and that's an updated list of the show as well. Every exhibitor, every time we release a new one, we update it with whoever got new booths. So it's always good if somebody wants to get a booth early on, because then every month you're in the magazine as it gets updated. But so Fence University, we're new, so we're developing that, and the classes, it's a lot more work to put together than it looks sometimes. So we've been doing some quick start classes to train people from outside of the access control industry, to teach them how to install gate operators. So we're teaching fence guys how to install gate operators, and then we're working on trying to teach people how to do some chain link classes and iron classes and aluminum, things like that. So, and then we've got some sales and marketing coming up from the Fence University. It's just, we're always trying to create something. And FWA Health, I don't know if you've looked into that, but we spent health. Yeah, FWAhealth.com. We've gotten hundreds of people in our industry health insurance that didn't have it before. So we spent a year and a half, I think, in the making to create that. And there's plans, you know, we don't sell the insurance. It's a completely separate company that manages all that. But we negotiated stuff through our network to get them plans starting at like $50 a month, you know, up to $300 for a family. At least you got the basics of the coverage. So if your kid gets sick, or if you get sick, and, you know, you can go get some prescriptions, go to telehealth, go get a checkup, things like that. So stuff that our industry didn't have. And I felt, and that came because I felt like people were leaving our industry after talking to a few people. I talked to one guy that was working at 7-Eleven that was a great fencer that left. Two guys, one guy went to 7-Eleven, one was working in a warehouse, because they said they needed health insurance. So here we are we're already in a shrinking, and you guys you do a lot with construction companies, and, you know, for every 7 people leaving our trade, only 2 or 3 are coming back in right now.
Right.
So that's that's a staggering number of loss that we're getting of people, that are in our trades. So, and some of them are leaving because of things like that, because they don't have health insurance. So come on, we've been doing this a while. I think we can cover that. We can figure out how to do that, right? At least get them to where they can afford it, and go back and tell their wives or their husbands or whoever that, hey, you know what, we've got health insurance, whether they're going to use it or not. They just want that security, and that's how you keep people in our trades. So definitely check out fwahealth.com, because that's a big deal, and that's growing every week.
Yeah, I see that. And then Mr. Fence Academy, you've mentioned this company or coaching program before.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's going to be at the conference, right?
Yep. Yeah, they'll be. He's doing the 2 days before the overdrive, and then the fence games that happen. If you've been to one of the other shows, you'll see there's some competitions that go on inside the floor. So he brings out what he calls a super fencer, and he does the fence games inside, which is pretty engaging for people while they're there. You can watch people who can dig the hole the quickest and nail up boards, things like that. Yeah. So that's kind of fun to watch. So he brings that he brings some excitement to the show, and he's got his tool line and stuff that he does with the Mr. Fence tools. And so it's just nice to have him there, just because he brings some energy, and his whole team, everybody, and his wife Heather and everybody. His wife Heather's part of the Women of FWA. So that's another thing to get involved with. That thing is blown up. The women of FWA. If you ever watch some of their podcasts they do every week, and that, the membership on that part is just growing quick.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I like some of the stuff you're doing here, just kind of connecting the industry. Like you said, the health insurance, that's a big deal. A lot of people are missing that. And a lot of these companies, obviously you're just kind of the broker for that. You're not giving them the health insurance. You're just kind of,
we're not even that.
Deal.
Yeah, we don't benefit from that at all. It's solely but we went through a lot of different people to find something, and everybody you talk to is like, oh, they have these great plans, but it's for companies of 10 people or more, and it's got this. So this is whether you've got one person. If it's just you, you can benefit from it and use it. So that was the battle. The battle is finding resources for companies, that have less than 10 employees. You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed how little there is until you get to that 5 to 10 employees. And that's kind of what that was. And, what a lot of people don't know, and I know you reach outside of the fence industry as well, into the concrete world and coating and things like that. So a lot of people don't realize you just got to go, and it's free to join on the free side of it. And you can benefit from the FWA Health. Mm-hmm. That's open to everybody. I mean, if, our goal is to get as many people insurance. So if you had somebody in the concrete world that wants to, get some information on the fencing industry, join and sign up for some healthcare. Yeah,
that's awesome. Cool. Well, let me share my screen here. If you guys are listening and you're a fence contractor, or you're an exhibit, you're a vendor looking to come to be an exhibit here, you can go to fenceshow.com. This is your guys' main site for it, right? fenceshow.com.
Yep.
It'll tell you all about the fence show, kind of what's going on here. You could be an exhibitor here, reserve a booth, or if you want to reserve a pass, obviously come here as well. What made you choose South Point in Vegas?
Well,
is it just the perfect venue for it?
Yeah, it just works good for us. They do a lot of rodeo stuff there and stuff as well. And then the hotel rooms, I got a good deal on the block. The drinks are $6 drinks, typically $5-6 drinks. It was cost effective. Mm-hmm. I got, like, if you saw at the top, $75 room nights on a certain room block. But by the way, we're way over our room block. We sold more rooms than we were technically allotted to. So they're just kind of allowing us to go over a room block until they shut it down. But even no matter what, they're shutting that thing down, I think, on Friday. Friday will be the last day. The 15th, I believe it is the last day you can take advantage of the $75 room nights. And while it's available, and that's only we're over, I think one of the days, like Tuesday, I think we were over like 150 nights that they were allowing us to go over on rooms.
Wow.
So definitely take advantage of that before Friday. And that's it goes from 75 to who knows, right? Whatever once it fills up, hotels are, once the more the
book rate.
The busier it is, the more rooms they got booked, the higher the price goes, right?
Yeah. It's just supply and demand at the end of the day. If there's more people coming here, more book rate. You're going to have to book at the normal pricing.
The rack rates, and it ain't going to be that negotiated rate that I negotiated a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And that'll be after the 15th. Yeah, no matter what. So definitely tell people to take advantage of that if you know somebody's coming.
Yeah, move your feet. If you're planning on coming, definitely choose now. In closing here, Brian, is there anything else that you would give to the fencing businesses listening here? Obviously, come to the event. It's going to be just an absolutely transformative event. You're going to be able to network with thousands of other fence contractors. You're going to be getting linked with the right vendors, the right suppliers. These are companies that are vetted, and you guys take it very seriously who comes into your network. So, it's not people out here shilling Ponzi schemes and things like that. And is there anything else you would like to leave here, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you mentioned come to the show, but actually go to any show, because what people don't realize is all of our shows are dependent on each other's shows, whether it's another association or whether it's another organization that does it. Because even at our show, there's going to be a set number of people that our show was the first show that this exhibitor ever exhibited at. And maybe it's this exhibitor, this product, maybe this anchor bolt, whatever it's going to be, is a big benefit to our industry. And if they come to one of the other shows or one of our shows and they didn't have a successful time, they may not do the next show. We may lose that person out of our industry, that product or that exhibitor forever. They may never go back and do another fence show. So believe it or not, you're supporting the fence show by supporting Fence Tech or the West Coast Fence Show. So I don't want people, if you can't make it to obviously, if I had to, I might be a little biased, but if I had to choose, I want you to come to the Fence Show and Security Expo. But if you can't make it all the way there and you can make it to one of the other ones, go to the other ones, because it benefits us as well. Because they're just like ours. There's a lot of first timers. There's a lot of first timers at the other ones, or maybe they're on the fence about continuing on doing fence trade shows. And if they don't have a successful show, that might be the last one they ever do. So you're supporting us and we're supporting them and all the other shows by just engaging in the industry at all. Nobody loses at all when you go to anybody's trade shows. But if you have to choose, go to the fence show in Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. Long-winded answer to tell them to come there. Look, we want to create a professional industry, and these events, these shows, whether it's the regional ones or, national shows, like these shows are going to help you become more of a professional brand, more of a professional fence contractor. And it's going to professionalize our industry, and that way we can experiment, growth across all borders here. And I'm super excited. And to our listeners here, obviously keep pushing forward, stay dedicated, and obviously let's take a look at Fence Show. I'll see you guys over there.
All right, thanks a lot, Marko.